The process of getting a thumbnail. Ow. Ow. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Shia and it's that time of the month again, and it's the May monthly wrap up. I'm going to talk about all the books that I read in the month of May. I'm staying the course of reading 7 books a month. I think there was only one month where I only read like 5 or 6 books, and that was probably March, February, because I was going through my book slump. I will go over the 7 books that I read and let you know all my thoughts about them. First things first though, I wanted to do something different that I haven't done with my last monthly wrap-ups. I wanted to go over the stats of my reading. In total, I read 7 books and I did read 3,474 pages in total. My average rating was a 3.89, and my genre breakdown, I read 4 fantasy romance / dystopian romance books, 1 thriller, 1 contemporary romance, and 1 young adult. And all my formats were majority physical, and I read 1 on my Kindle. So let's get started. The first book that I read in May was the book Raelia by Lynette Noni. This is the second book in the Medoran Chornicles, and I have been making my way through this series. And this follows a character named Alex, and this is a young adult urban fantasy because there are some technologies that are incorporated in this story. And we follow a character named Alex, and she's a 16-year-old, and she gets sent to boarding school because her parents are archaeologists and they unfortunately can't bring her. While she's at this boarding school, she falls through a magical portal where she ends up attending classes at the place called Akarnae. Akarnae is like this magical school where it's more like technology based, but she soon uncovers a sentient library who allows her to explore the different doors and portals that is connected in this library, and through her exploration of this library, she uncovers a mystery that involves a fae world. I love this series so much. I'm loving it so much. I am in the second book, so obviously I can't like really talk about the plot because it's gonna spoil some stuff that happens in the first book. The first book is just her going through her classes. She gets ranked into different classes, and I absolutely love her interactions with the different characters in this book. She ends up making 2 friends named Bear and Jordan, and they basically show her the ropes of the school. I am absolutely loving it. It reads very young, it does. It's closer to middle grade writing than it is like young adult. I absolutely love it just the same because I love how they interact with each other, and I love that she's sort of like a little bit ditzy because she doesn't understand some of the stuff that's going on. I absolutely love how her character growth is going, and I gave this book a 4.5 stars, and I highly recommend picking up this series, and it's a 5-book series. The next book I picked up was Direbound by Sable Sorenson. This book has been going around TikTok as well. I know that Bailey's Bookshelf read it, and she was the first one that I saw was raving about this book. This follows a character named Marin, and in her world there are nabbers who are going around her town kidnapping children. And one day her sister ends up getting taken, and the only way to get her sister back is to join the army on the front lines. The year that she joins, she ends up getting involved in this bonding ritual that they do every few years, and during this bonding ritual they have to climb a sort of mountain that is very dangerous to climb up, and once they get to the top there are dire wolves that are waiting for them, and they have the option to bond with dire wolves. But she doesn't want to bond with the dire wolf. She just wants to get to the front lines as soon as possible to find her sister, but a dire wolf has other plans for her. So she has to go through this academy like training area in the castle to basically learn how to bond with her dire wolf and learn how to become a part of the pack, because in this world the pack mentality is very strong. They don't mind culling out the weakest link. It was so good. It's a fantasy romance, and there is a little romance that is going through with like a childhood best friend she has, but there's also a instructor named Stark who is the tall, dark-haired, brooding, tattooed kind of instructor. I love the exploration of the world, and I love the action in this too. It kept me engrossed. I did read it in a previous reading blog of like reading anticipated hype books, and if you want to know my full thoughts, I will link it. This book got a 4.5 stars for me. The only reason why I didn't give it a 5 stars is this because some of the choices that Marin made kind of really irritated me, and she reminded me a lot of DM from Spark of the Everflame based on how irritated I got by her actions. But she did redeem herself towards the end. I just hope that she kind of leaves those choices behind once we get to the second book, and I'm sure that she will have a big character growth. I was excited for the second book to come out because it was supposed to come out on July 7th. This book has since been picked up traditionally, which puts a delay on the second book, and the second book won't be slated to come out until March. So I unfortunately have to wait, especially after that cliffhanger, but I highly recommend picking this up, especially if going through like a Fourth Wing or Onyx Storm drought. The next book I picked up in May was the highly hyped Silver Elite by Dani Francis. This book has so many controversies and online discourse of the different things that like happened when this book came out. It was highly marketed as being similar to Divergent and Hunger Games because it's dystopian romance, and this follows a character named Ren Darlington, and she is a modified. Modifieds have been exposed to toxin gases, and all the modifieds have like psychic abilities, and she is the strongest mod out of them all because she has 4 different abilities. Modifieds are actually hunted down and killed or sent to labor camps for being a modified, which is something that is not in their control, and she has to hide who she is, otherwise she would get caught. So one day she rescues a little boy who ends up getting taken away by Coyote. A commanding officer saw her do this and ends up showing up to her place the next day. She lives with her Uncle Jim, and they find out that Uncle Jim is sort of like a defector from the commandment. Her uncle gets taken away and she ends up trying to rescue him but gets caught in the process. They force her to go attend a sort of military academy, and also she ends up having a sort of flirtation with somebody named Crossridden, and he's sort of like the captain of the school and also the son of the commander who is in charge of executing all these modifieds. So my feelings about this book is very disappointing because the beginning of the book was very well thought out. I loved the aspect of the dystopian world where modifieds are put into danger constantly. I would not describe this as dystopian whatsoever. I honestly think it's a military academy reality show that is set in a dystopian world. She runs into Crossridden a lot and they start forming sort of like a relationship, but I could not believe their relationship whatsoever. I didn't feel the tension. I didn't feel any of their sort of banter or anything like that. I just thought they were so boring. It's very insta-lust. I don't really mind insta-love that much if it's done well, but insta-lust is all I felt from the first page. And you're supposed to believe their love story and their relationship. I didn't buy it. I just thought it was insta-lust, and that's all the interactions are with each other. They don't really have any deep conversations. They don't really have anything besides I'm attracted to you. And Ren, don't even get me started on her because she does so many stupid choices, to be honest. She makes a choice at near the end of the book that I was flabbergasted at because it puts a target on her back. It's just insane what she does in this book, and it's like it's supposed to be a serious world. She's supposed to be fearing for her life constantly. It's like she completely forgets that sometimes. Also, like some of the stuff that happened at the end of the book, I predicted from the first page. I couldn't care less about the 2 characters or anything else that happened in the world, and I ended up giving this a 2.5 stars. Let's just say I don't recommend this book if you're looking for more depth. Next book I read in May was Shield of Sparrows. Shield of Sparrows was another highly anticipated, hyped book in the book talk bookstagram world. This book is by Devney Perry, and she is mainly a contemporary romance writer. She wrote books like the Indigo Ridge series. This is her first entrance into the romantasy world, and it's more fantasy forward than it is romance because a lot of the romance don't really happen till towards the end of the book because she goes on this journey. Well, let me start by telling you what this book is. So we follow a character named Odessa, and Odessa is like the oldest child of the king. Her mom ends up passing away when she's a little kid, and then her dad ends up getting remarried and they end up having 2 other children. And so her younger sister is supposed to be the sparrow, and every single few years or something like that, the kingdom ends up choosing a sparrow who is going to be the bride prize for the opposite kingdom, which is called Tara, and that's how they keep the peace and how the different kingdoms in this world keep the peace, because they basically have to sacrifice one of their daughters and one of their sons to go marry off. Her sister May is supposed to be the sparrow, but when the foreign prince plus his guardian and his group come to visit the kingdom, they end up choosing Odessa to be the bride rather than May. So they end up marrying. They go to Chira and they travel like overseas, and during their sea voyage there's a lot of like monsters that try to attack them, and then it gets worse when they get into Chira because she and her group have to travel through like a forest and everything to get to where they are supposed to settle. None of the characters from Chira trust her whatsoever, and they're all very secretive around her. I love like the different monsters that Devney Perry writes about in this world. It's very dangerous in Chira. They get like attacked everywhere, and she has a lot of banter with the male main character, and it's just such a fun good time. I absolutely loved how this was written, but there is like points where there's pages and pages where every single paragraph has the character asking so many questions in her head. It's an endless amount of questions, and it kind of gets irritating halfway through the book, and I just don't like that writing choice. That's the only reason why I couldn't give it a 5 stars, but I did give it a 4.5 stars because I absolutely love what happened at the end. I am like foaming at the mouth for the second book, and I can't wait to read it and get it in my hands. I did get the one with like this special sprayed edges. I know that there was one that was exclusive to Walmart that was the signed edition, but I didn't want to, you know, go around. It wasn't important enough to me to go find the signed edition, but this edition, it's a special first edition and it's gorgeous. This is the front of the hardcover, of the naked hardcover, and then these are the end pages. This depicts like a little area that they get to where there's sort of like houses in the trees, and it's so wonderful how this book is described because it reminds me a lot of like, if you ever watched The Witcher or played the game, it's very similar to that kind of world where there's like monsters everywhere, and then you go on an adventure to kind of fight the, you know, the big baddies, like the monsters and everything. Suffice it to say, I absolutely highly recommend Shield of Sparrows. I think it was way better than Silver Elite, but yeah, highly recommend. The next book I picked up was The Tenant by Freida McFadden. I've stated this before in different videos. Freida McFadden is my favorite thriller author because I know that her books are very simply written. I picked up The Tenant because I needed a palate cleanser from so many intricate, deep fantasies that I've been reading lately. So I picked it up, and this follows a character who lives in New York, and they unfortunately start getting like bad luck, and it follows a character named Blake Porter. So it's going to be told from a male perspective the whole time, and he unfortunately gets like fired from his job out of a accusation that he stole from the company, and he unfortunately just bought a brownstone house in New York with his fiance. It's expensive, and they can't afford the mortgage if he doesn't get another job. In order to make ends meet, they have to get a tenant to sleep in one of their extra rooms, and all of a sudden, maybe a few weeks or a month afterwards, all of these like series of events start happening. He ends up finding maggots or whatever, and it's just, it gets really gross and very, very queasy. It made me queasy a little bit, and then you find out the twist at the end, and I saw that twist coming from a mile away. There are some other books that Freida McFadden has written that I never really guessed the twist, so I did end up giving this book a 3 stars. It's another book that was like very low rated from Freida McFadden. I've never like rated any of her book 5 stars. It's just, they're good palate cleansers. They're very simple, yet they get me through whatever like slump I'm in. They're perfect for that. They're fast. All of them are in Kindle Unlimited. But yeah, I did end up giving it a 3 stars. And the second to last book that I read in May was The Road of Bones by Demi Winters. This is the first book in the Ashen series, and it's supposed to be a 5-book series if I saw that correctly online. There are currently 2 books out in this series, and this follows a character named Scylla. Scylla lives in sort of like a Viking world. So it's a Viking fantasy romantasy with Viking lore, which is very different from all the other fantasies I've read. I've never really read a Viking fantasy. I loved the world. I love how different it was. I love how it was focused on warriors and then the magic system, and I absolutely love like sort of the found family that she finds. There is one day where she is trying to escape with her father from this town, and they decide to leave because every few years they leave a town. Magic is outlawed in this world. Anyone who has any inklings of magic, they are taken to sort of like pillars and stoned to death. And they are trying to escape one day, but unfortunately some assassins try to come kidnap her and end up killing her father. So she has to go run on her own. And one day she ends up getting onto a wagon, and unfortunately that wagon belongs to the notorious Blood Crew, and they're sort of like mercenaries who are sent to go take care of like businesses here and there, and they decide to take her along to where she kind of halfway needs to go. She is sort of a liability because she doesn't know how to fight. It's so good. I love loved this book. I'm so happy I picked it up. It's been on my shelf for a few months. It's so good. I love the found family, and it's not like some sort of like surface level found family either. It's more in depth, and you get to see each character's like backstory, and they all come from like very harrowing backstories. One character has sort of like a domestic violence situation. Again, check your trigger warnings because it does talk about that. And I love how all the found family characters have like different stories, and she tries to connect to every single one of them and starts like slowly worming her way into everyone's hearts. I love it. And then the main person that she's trying to get like the trust with is somebody named Axe Eyes, and his actual name is Ray. It's so good. Highly recommend picking this up. And I gave it a 4.5 stars. I just didn't really like some of the pacing issues. There were some points where it did get a little bit slow towards the middle, but once we get over that part, it does start picking up and back into the plot. I am already reading the second book, and there's a novella coming out in June, but the third book is not supposed to come out until February, so highly recommend. Apologies if like there's any lighting changes or anything. I had to stop recording because my camera was overheating. The last book I read in May was People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. I wanted to pick up this book because I feel like I was getting into a slump, so I needed something like quick to read and not fantasy so that I keep on going with like what I wanted to read. I picked this up maybe end of last year and started reading the first 50 pages. Wasn't really feeling it, but I decided to pick it up again, and I actually really liked it. This book follows a character named Poppy. She is a traveler influencer, and she became big on her Instagram and everything, and she works for this travel magazine company. So every single year the company sends her like on a very extravagant sort of like trip where she goes and gets pictures and gets things posted into the article and like social media sites, and she always takes her friend Alex. Alex has been her best friend since they were in second year college. They met because they are from the same town in Ohio. She found out that he was driving back home and decided to ride back with him. And they ended up forming this relationship, and every single year they go on a vacation together, and she invites him to her vacations that her company sends her to. But this year is different because the last 2 years they hadn't been speaking to each other, and she started missing him. So she reaches out to him and asks him if they want to do another summer. And they sort of have like a cheap Airbnb experience, and they go through all these terrible things throughout the whole entire time when they're in Palm Springs, and they try to reform their relationship. It's such a cute romance. I know a lot of people find this their least favorite Emily Henry book, but I actually really enjoyed this book. I felt for the two characters' relationship. I felt how like unrequited their like feelings were for each other. I wish they just like learned how to speak to each other instead of waiting this long to speak to each other. But I loved their chemistry, and I thought it was very simple, and I liked how it flashed back between their past summers, going from like 12 summers ago when they first met, when they went to Ohio together through their road trip, up until present day. I love this. I actually enjoyed this a lot more than Beach Read. Beach Read, I couldn't stand the two main characters, but these two, I love them. I wish we could have had a perspective from Alex. It was just told from Poppy's perspective and how she felt about the situations. I love the character development. I thought the third act breakup was actually very needed. I gave this a 4 stars, and this book I do highly recommend. And for my Emily Henry rankings now, it's still first Happy Place, then Funny Story, and then third is People We Meet on Vacation, and fourth is going to be Beach Read. I still have to read Book Lovers and Big Beautiful Life, and then I'll be caught up on all Emily Henry books, which I'm so excited about. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for listening to me yap about books again. If you want more videos like this, like and subscribe, and comment down below of your favorite reads, or if you read any of the books I read, and it really does help my channel a lot. Thank you all for your support, and I'll talk to you all later. Bye.